Take a look at an old version of Windows, Windows 7. Now, it's got the familiar layout, icons on the desktop, a few pages open at once, and that all-important Start button in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, Windows 8. Can you spot the difference? Well, for starters, there are no actual windows anymore. It is a totally different layout. Tile and panels designed for touchscreens, and no Start button. And that annoyed Windows diehards. Microsoft's solution is Windows 8.1. It includes the famous Start button, and if you don't like this new touch-friendly interface, you can skip it and go straight to the desktop. Now, let's get more on the new version of Windows with Tom Warren. He is the senior editor at The Verge. He joins us from our London studio. Tom, good to see you. Now, I've read your piece on TheVerge.com. You called this a significant update. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a significant update when you sort of combine all the minor sort of changes. They've added in sort of a new sort of search interface, which is clearly something that's going to sort of pull people away from Google. That's their sort of attempt. And they've also addressed, as you said, about the Start button. So they've brought that back. It's kind of, I describe it as a semi-U-turn rather than a full U-turn, because it is a button, it's a visual sort of element on the screen, but what it actually does is it just brings you to the sort of tiled interface. So they're not sort of bringing back the Start menu that many people would be familiar with.
Yeah, that seems to be the headline here with this upgrade, is that Start button. And with the Start button back and other upgrades, it seems that Microsoft is listening. You know, it's listening to the critics, but is it enough? Is the company ready to give its diehard user base what they really, really want from Windows?
I think if you didn't like Windows 8 at this point now, I don't think what they're putting in right now would perhaps change your mind entirely. I think it's sort of still really early days for this, for Windows 8, and what they're really trying to do is bring it to the touchscreens and the touch-based computers, and there's not enough of those, and there's not enough sort of real high-quality ones. So if you're like a desktop and mouse user, it's still not like the ideal piece of software to be using in that sort of environment.
I mean, it's a touchscreen interface after all. Yeah, and Tom, you say that the biggest change with this upgrade, visually, the biggest change is how the apps are organized. So the question is, app developers, do you think they'll like this more? Yeah. Do you think they'll be more willing to make, you know, great functional apps for Windows 8.1?
I don't know if it changes app developers' minds on things. I mean, we really don't know enough about it to really say either way. They're going to talk a lot about it at the end of June. But, I mean, in terms of the way that it sort of lays the applications out, it's a lot better. So you can fit on, like, if you've got, like, 24 or 27-inch monitor, you can fit on up to 4 apps and stuff. Whereas before, you'd only be able to have 2, and that was quite restrictive, especially as these things are, like, full-screen applications. So they're tweaking it, they're making it a little bit more you know, easy to use on a desktop, but really this is a touch-based operating system, and until we really get the ideal hardware to sort of be able to use it as a PC and then as a tablet, it's still kind of in a grey area, I guess.
Yeah, and one last question for you, it's about search. Search is supposed to be more powerful, it's more integrated in Windows 8.1, but what effect is that going to have on Bing, Microsoft's search engine that is definitely not Google?
Yeah, well, I don't know, like, it's obviously powered by Bing, but it doesn't really bring you to the web interface of Bing that you sort of traditionally navigate to. So basically, it's in the sidebar, so if you started typing on the start screen, you'd sort of be thrown into this search interface. So if you wanted to look up Marilyn Monroe, it would bring you up, like, basically a new interface where you could then break into applications and find out information and you know, look at the videos of Marilyn Monroe, etc., and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of a neat little package and interface. It's all powered by Bing behind the scenes, but I don't think you can really tell that it is. And obviously, they're not going to allow sort of Google to offer that interface like natively, like they're offering. So I guess it will help people sort of get used to Bing. I guess that's part of the idea. But I don't know if it's really going to have much effect for Bing as you know it today.
All right, Tom Warren of The Verge on Windows 8.1. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.